This is a tank, and its job is to go through buildings and trees and stuff. And this is a sports car, and its job is to kind of go round everything, like that. Now, these are two completely separate entities, but the Germans have decided they can be combined, that you can have a tank GTI. This is the result, the Porsche Cayenne. The first car ever to be named after an ingredient. On the one hand, it's a huge 2.3-ton monster capable of dealing with the worst that the Somme has to throw at it. But when you take it on the road, it turns into an absolute screamer. It is hugely fast. This turbocharged 450 brake horsepower model is actually quicker than any Mercedes, Jaguar or BMW. It'll do 165 miles an hour. And then there's the acceleration. It just shrugs off its weight and flies. 0 to 60 takes 5 seconds and about 17 gallons of fuel. And it's not just fast in a straight line either. Whenever I drive one of these big off-road cars, I'm always terrified that I'm going to have to swerve for something and it'll just fall over. But in this, there is no fear. It feels like I'm in a big, well-sorted sports saloon. It actually feels very similar to the Audi RS6. So, it's big, fast, and stunning to drive. But none of this is important. To test its off-road abilities, we've come to the place where the army tests its tanks, Bovington, in Dorset. Now, most modern off-road cars, like for instance the BMW X5, would get stuck on a croquet lawn. This has lots of ground clearance, it's got locking diffs, it's got a low-range gearbox. As a result, I'm pointing straight at the sun. This is very impressive. I can't believe I'm doing this in a Porsche on high-speed road tyres. But I am and I have, and it's at the top. That's astonishing. This car is jam-packed with electronics that are not only very clever, but also very tough. That's a bit of a dust cloud. If anything, the Cayenne is even more impressive here than it is on the road. You know what? I don't care about that either. Inside you get lots of buttons to push, but not as much space as you might have been expecting. The rear will take 3 at a pinch, but the boot is tiny. It's not the most practical car in the world then. Not that this matters. It's not exactly cheap either. The base model is £45,000. This turbo is £70,000. That makes it about £20,000 more than a Range Rover. But I don't care about that either. Nothing matters less in my life. Nothing. As an engineering exercise, the Cayenne is astonishing. Only the Germans could have pulled it off. But all their efforts with the power and the speed and the toughness and the agility, they were all a complete and utter waste of time. Because look at it. I think what they tried to do is make the front look like a 911, which it doesn't. And then from here back, it looks like they haven't bothered. Honestly, I have seen more attractive gangrenous wounds than this. It is a monkfish among cars. It has the sex appeal of a camel with gingivitis, and frankly, I would rather walk back to the studio than drive another yard in it. So I shall. That way.
I have to say, I think I'd have walked back as well, you know. That is a truly horrible car.
It is absolutely foul. I actually think that if a child looked out of his bedroom window and saw it, Daddy, there's a monster outside there! This is horrible! And he's, no, son, that's my new Porsche.
The thing is, they are absolutely everywhere. They're everywhere.
You say that, but actually, Altrincham, I've got a list here of where they're being sold, OK? And Altrincham, which is a sort of footballer's wives suburb in Cheshire, they've sold more there than they have in Loughborough, Luton, Manchester, Medway, Middlesbrough, Midlothian, Milton Keynes, Newcastle, Newport, Normanton, North Dorset and North East Bedfordshire put together. And then there's Guildford. If you take Surrey and Cheshire out of the equation, they won't have sold one. I mean, it really is a question of, you are now entering Onyx County, please drive your Cayenne carefully. And the reason why no one here is laughing is because we are in Guildford.
Onyx County.
This lot have all, exactly, they've all got Onyx coffee tables.
Right, the news. And sticking with the Cayenne, because there is a new model out, they have made some changes. Here it is. Specifically, the changes are to the engine.
Oh,
it's
brilliant.
now a V6 with 250 brake horsepower. It will be cheaper and lower CO2 emissions.
Yes, and they've left the one bit that needed changing.
Yeah, the body.
It's still hideous.
So they threw away a good engine, kept the hideous looks.
It is from the depths, that
Yes,
thing,
it
isn't it?
is.
And you remember what you were saying about monkfish earlier on in your piece? And you know, sometimes those deep-sea fishermen, they dredge up one of those hideous anglerfish from 20,000 fathoms, and it's all distorted and bloated because of the change in pressure. I wondered, if you put that down to 20,000 fathoms, if it would turn back into a 911.